Sometimes a place feels like home simply because you've grown up there or you've lived there for a long time. Other places become a second home, and even after you leave, they stay with you. Instead of you having put roots down in that place grows up into you. Although I did not grow up in Colorado and may never live there again, it made me a different person. Being from Colorado has a certain status. It means you can put a bumper sticker that says native on your car. These stickers are all designed from a previous license plate, and the one that suits me best is actually tourist, but putting down my vehicle would mean admitting that I don't really belong, at least according to some of the natives. Getting into the mountains and back home often means fighting traffic jams, but people tend to respect each other's desire to experience the mountains, whether they are skiing, hiking, fishing, horseback riding, or four-wheeling. And once you reach the high country, there is plenty of solitude. One of my favorite places is at the top of Guanella Pass, where I have hiked on both sides as well as climbed one of the state's top peaks, known as 14ers because they are at least 14,000 feet high. Colorado vastly outnumbers all of the other lower 48 states with these high peaks. Montana may be big sky country, and everything's supposed to be bigger in Texas, but Colorado holds its own. While we associate Colorado with mountains, the plains are just as expansive. The mountains are not even visible across the prairie until at least 2 hours from the Kansas border. In August of 2010, the video Colorado Girls, a parody of Katy Perry's song, went viral on YouTube. A trio of producers from Denver replaced Snoop Dogg with a flannel-wearing, yoga-practicing swimmer, and they depict the more typical activities of Colorado girls: hiking, watching the Broncos, drinking Coors, and skiing. And hiking. Have I mentioned hiking? Some dedicated hikers set out to hike or bag the more than 50 14ers. The Colorado rule dictates the climbing a 14er only counts if you gain at least 3,000 feet in elevation. Here I gained only 2,400 feet, but I'll claim it anyway. What ultimately sold me on the state, though, was the skiing. Growing up in Missouri didn't allow me to grow up on skis the way I'd wished. After watching the Winter Olympics one year, I convinced my brother to help me construct runs for our saucer toboggans, complete with names, just like the ski areas. It was a dream come true, until the snow melted. I also picked up cross-country skiing, and when I moved away and couldn't downhill ski on a regular basis, I switched to cross-country as my winter activity. During one of the times I lived in Colorado, I took regular trips up to an area with lighted trails. It was peaceful, and another skier referred to it as skiing through Narnia. But skiing wasn't all I did. I rode my horse, sometimes at horse shows or in the mountains, mostly on trails south of Denver. I bought a bike I really couldn't afford, but I ended up riding it all over Vail Pass the last summer of my 3-year stay in Colorado. I'd grown to welcome challenges, and I was about to take on the challenge of Marine Corps basic training. Although most people would point to the military as transformative, I would never have enlisted in the first place had it not been for my experiences in Colorado. The other activity I've not mentioned is music. During 2 of the times I lived there, I picked up music again. It might have been 3 times, but I was busy changing careers after my second move there. But Colorado never quite stuck, and I kept moving back to the Midwest. I visit family there and brought a kayak back with me once. I've paddled it in Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. Not quite like climbing a 14er, but just as I enjoy the quiet of cross-country skiing, I like paddling on quiet lakes and streams. I've done my share of hiking and even backpacking in Missouri. I'm drawn more to the parks and trails that remind me of the West. I can never get enough hiking through pine stands like this one at Hahn State Park. I always hike this trail so that I go over the highest point in the park near the end. It would be anticlimactic to start here. Even closer to the end of the trail are these rocky bluffs that overlook the creek running through the park. The climb over the knob and down this side reminds me a little of hiking in the Rockies. As I descend past these rocks, I take it slowly, not because I'm tired, but to linger on the trail. Another of my favorite hikes in southeast Missouri is to the top of Hughes Mountain. Just below the top of the mountain, the trail emerges from the forest, sort of the way the trails do at the tree line in Colorado. This tree line, though, is from the hard granite cap resisting most vegetation growth on this Ozark Mountain. I also appreciate the rivers that slice through the forests of Missouri. On one of my float trips, I came across a scene I never thought I would see, a bald eagle in the wild. I'd grown up when this bird was still on the endangered species list and was thrilled when I heard they were no longer endangered. But I always think of them as living in the West rather than by a relatively small Missouri River. Whenever I can, though, I leave Midwestern life behind and spend some time pretending to be a Coloradoan again. I play music with friends there. I hike, this time at Red Rocks, the park where the famous amphitheater is located, and surprisingly I snowboard. Who knew I would take up this unlikely sport in my 40s when my hips were giving out prematurely? But in between surgeries, I kept developing my snowboarding skills. In my wildest dreams, I don't think I ever expected to be riding on Colorado slopes again, but I have managed to ride there multiple days in each of the last 4 seasons. Colorado is not finished with me yet. In a way, my experience mirrors that of Colorado, a state that seems always to be reconstituting itself, whether in the change between winter and summer or in response to economic forces. The second time I lived in Colorado, I worked in a survey crew at the old airport and a former Air Force base, both of which were being redeveloped. It is like a young state and old state combined, the only evidence of a once busy rail line over the top of Kenosha Pass or abandoned tracks, while Denver is now the site of the largest airport in the city. As for me, I'm not sure I want to live in Colorado again, since a person can reinvent herself only so many times.